You know what's awesome? Action movies. I love action movies, even though I don't watch them a lot. However, in my watching, I've realized that a lot of the time they're essentially the same thing. Cool guy does cool thing and is, well, cool. And even though I see the appeal in the genre, turning your brain off and chillaxing after a hard day of work, for example, I cannot deny that when I watch them, I sometimes yearn for more meaning. Something deeper than just a cool guy shooting some others. And that's where these three come into play. But before we get into all of that, a word from our sponsor. My YouTube channel was started only last month, and you people have already managed to get me to 60 subscribers. I can't tell you how thankful I am, as originally I didn't believe anyone would watch my first video. With that being said, I want to tell you, yes, you, new viewer, to like, subscribe, and finally, hit that notification button so that you can get notified whenever I upload new content. I would also like to mention that as of the upload of this video, I will start streaming on Twitch. I don't have an exact schedule, but I will be streaming most Saturdays and probably one other day of the week besides that, so make sure to turn notifications on for Twitch too so that you can get notified whenever I stream. And once again, thank you so much for 60 subscribers. Kill Bill is surprisingly unique for an action movie. I mean, that's to be expected since Quentin Tarantino directed it, and good movies are just a Tarantino signature, among other things. Ugh. Ignoring that, Kill Bill manages to stand out from the rest because of many things, but I'd like to talk about one thing in specific today, that being the violence. The film manages to over-exaggerate the violence to such an extreme that it enhances the movie as a whole. Look here as this lady cuts this guy's head clean off. It doesn't just flop to the ground and then cut to the next scene. Instead, it stays on that scene of his head cut off and blood starts flowing from his neck like a water fountain. Of course, here it's more or less used for comedy, but the message I'm trying to get across is still there. That being that this movie uses extreme violence to its benefit. I also want to shine a light on the fact that this movie literally changes styles in the middle. When we are shown a character's backstory, it cuts to an anime version of the backstory scene. This anime is surprisingly well done, at least for 2003, since this is what anime looked like back then. Yeah, kind of a stark contrast, isn't it? The anime scene, just like the rest of the movie, also features overly graphic violence, and it yet again serves to its benefit. I find it very interesting that in the final fight of the movie, the violence isn't all that exaggerated, or so the viewer thinks, until the fight ends, and if you've watched the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, then go watch it, since it's so good. When Tarantino was politely asked why the movie featured so much violence, he responded like this.
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it?
And I completely agree. As I've said multiple times, the movie really wouldn't be itself without this hyperfixation on violence, which it shows, and it greatly benefits from. But aside from all of that violence, do you know what else I love? Immersion. Every single time I ask a person who loves Shadow of the Colossus why exactly they love it, they almost always respond, because it's cool. And while that is quite a simplified version of what they actually say, it all boils down to the same thing. And the thing is, I completely agree. I love this game because of how purely awesome it is. But not only that, I also love it because of how awesome it feels. Shadow of the Colossus is, in my opinion, one of the easiest games to immerse yourself in. It achieves this by letting you be free. I mean, don't get me wrong, you definitely have an objective, that being to slay the 16 colossi which inhabit the beautiful world of the game, but the game never forces you to do anything. It lets you freely explore the world without much limitation. And if you choose to take the game up on this offer of freedom, you are rewarded bountifully. There is so much world to explore and so many random things to find. For instance, there are fruits which you can find hanging off of trees around the world. The important thing to note about these fruits is that the game never outright tells you that they exist. You have to find them on your own. This is something I can personally attest to since I didn't even know they existed until I read about them in a random thread on GameFAQs. Another small detail that I love about this game is that after killing each Colossus, the game doesn't lock you out of that area or something. No, it instead lets you see their dead, lifeless body, which, while definitely morbid, adds to the atmosphere of the game. I should probably talk about the Colossi, shouldn't I? First, you have to find the Colossus, which is is simple enough with your shining sword, but then you have to figure out how to actually kill the damn thing. The first Colossus makes this process seem very simple, but every single one of them has a different way to get on top. This flying one, for example. It starts off by standing on this pillar which you can't get on top of by climbing, and trust me, I tried. You logically decide to shoot at it to get its attention, and after it spots you, it tries to swoop down and munch a little. Then you can jump on top of it to finally go and kill it. Again, it seems simple, but the other Colossi get very, very complicated, since Shadow of the Colossus at its core is a puzzle game. While on the topic of this flying guy, look at how the wind hits your character, how slowly he moves, and the music which plays to accompany this. It makes the game feel so grand, like you're actually there, killing the Colossus with your own hands. Plus, if you're using a controller, the vibrations vary in how intense they are depending on how hard it was for your character. This adds a vast amount of immersion since the sensitivity of the vibrations is really well done. I've noticed that when it comes to the concept of immersion, the studio behind the game really excel at it. Look at Eco, for instance. That game also feels very lived in and very immersive. When you come around to actually finishing the game, it doesn't just stop there. You also unlock a hard mode and something else called time attack mode. I'm going to specifically focus on time attack since the hard mode is exactly what it sounds like. If you go to a Colossi's respective statue before beating them on your second playthrough, you are prompted to activate time attack mode. This mode gives you a time limit to beat the Colossi, and some of these can get really intense if you're bad at video games just like me. After beating any of the Colossi with this mode on, you are then given a unique item. These items range from a bow that fires explosive arrows to a map of all the fruits, and while benign, they still serve for a neat little feature that allows the player to have more fun exploring if they hadn't done so already. Exploring, huh? Don't you ever wish we could explore the cosmos? They're so vast and expansive. I wonder what's all the way out there. Oh, Gurren Lagann is one of the shows that sticks with you after finishing it, and just like the others that I've mentioned, it does so because of the way it portrays its action, that being via scale. Now, if me and the Souls-like fandom can agree on anything, that's that small guy fighting big guy equals awesome. I mean, we even saw some of this earlier with Shadow of the Colossus, since it is very literally just small guy fighting big guy action. Gurren Lagann, however, flips this idea on its head. I imagine the producers were sitting in a meeting like, you know what would be awesome? Instead of one big guy and one small guy, what if we just had two big guys that kept getting bigger? Gurren Lagann really experiments with this, since just when the viewer thinks it couldn't get any bigger, it certainly does. At first, it starts with some pretty big robots. Soon, it ramps up to some pretty huge robots, and after 20 episodes, you have robots that are literally standing on top of galaxies and fighting with even bigger drills. Plus, the music really adds to the scale of the fights. I wish I could play some of it, but the video would surely get demonetized, so enjoy this copyright-free version. Fun fact, the composer for Gurren Lagann's soundtrack is actually very famous since he's worked on a bunch of big hits from the 2000s. I mean, Soul Eater, Black Butler, JoJo's Part 2, Noragami, hell, even Persona Trinity Soul. Wait. No!
Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet.
Moving on from that monstrosity, another thing which baffles me is the animation. It's not the usual style for Gainax, but it just looks so good. It reminds me of something made by Studio Trigger, and it's all around stunning with its colors. That's another thing which I think makes this anime so unique. The colors. It stays incredibly vibrant most of the time, and then when some emotional, important scenes hit, the colors change and become more dull. It really adds to the scale of it all. And with that, I've talked about everything that I want to talk about today. I really enjoy it when movies do this kind of thing since it makes them stand out from the crowd.
Oh, that's cool.
An honorable mention should go to Bullet Train since it does a lot of unique things, just not anything too specific where I can just point out one thing and be like, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Also, a huge thank you to @DinnerFruits on Twitter for drawing me this beautiful Toru fan art. If you don't know, Toru is the channel's mascot, so yeah, make sure to go follow her on Twitter. And also, if you're an artist, maybe draw Toru, fan art of Toru, and you could get it featured in the next video.